Hi, I'm Juliette Ferguson. People call me Jette. I'm with Sotheby's International Realty here in Carmel. And today I would like to interview and welcome Krasa Trust Attorney located in Pacific Grove.
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It was always a pleasure to have a conversation with you about various aspects of estate planning and law.
Yes. And Kyle happens to be my own trust attorney, so I know and trust him. So I'm thrilled that he came over. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask a little bit about a couple of the propositions and taxes. And one thing we will talk about in the next round of interviews after this will be kind of the parent-child relationship and tax savings.
Property tax is such an important issue in
Yes.
California because of Proposition 13, which basically says that you keep your same property tax base as long as you own the house, with a few exceptions, like if you did new construction. But in generally, if you've held onto your house for a long period of time, you are paying much less in property tax than if you bought the house, say, last week.
Right.
And so preserving that property tax base is so important. One common way to preserve it is when there's a transfer between parents and children.
Okay.
In many cases, you can keep the property tax base, and that's the subject of the other video that we're going to unpack in more detail.
Yes, because
for
that
another
we
time.
can spend 10 minutes on, I'm sure.
That's right. That's right. But you had mentioned that you recently were involved in a sale of a house where
Prop 60.
Prop 60, where your clients wanted to move
Yes.
from one property to another, and generally speaking, you sell your property, you're going to get a property tax reassessment. It's going to shoot your property taxes up.
Right.
But in this case, you learned
Oh my
about Prop
gosh,
60.
it was actually a lender that educated me on the details of making this work, because they actually wanted to move up, but with Prop 60 you have to stay equal or lesser value, but
So
with paying
Prop 60
different
says that if you're 55 or older,
Yes.
and you're moving from one property to another within the same county, which was
Correct.
applicable in this
One
case.
time only.
One time only, you can transfer your property tax base to the new property. But as you mentioned, the new property has to be basically equal to or less than the value of your old property with a 5%
5%
little bump.
appreciation, which
That's right.
the person at the county tax department was very helpful, and she said even one day later you could have the 5% bump. So I was very concerned, of the time. Could it really be one day later? Because I sold one house in Seaside and they bought a house in Marina, and it was one day later when the other one closed, but it was within the 5%.
Well, that was so important that you knew that for your clients, because they were able now, their property taxes are going to stay the same
About
rate,
$300
about the same.
a month instead of $550 a month. And
Right.
they now
For the
move
rest
from
of their-
800 square feet to 1,200
For the rest
square
of their
feet.
lives, yeah. They're
Yeah.
going to have that lower, they're
Exactly.
going to keep that property tax base, which is really important.
Right, and you have to be 55 or older.
You have
He
to be
barely was
55 or older.
55 and made
Right.
it, so.
So Prop 60 is when you do it within the same county, which is what
Right.
you did in that case.
Yes.
There's also Prop 90 that allows you, in limited circumstances, to go from one property in one county to another county.
Right.
But right now, currently, there are only a few counties, a handful of counties
Right.
that will accept transfers of existing property tax bases from out of county.
And
so,
they're not as good as Monterey County from what I remember, but I can't remember
well,
what.
of course, Monterey County is the best county
Exactly.
ever. But there is an initiative on the ballot in November. It's Proposition 5, and it's going to make some radical changes to these rules. One is going to require all counties accept that transfer if you're 55 or older.
All counties in California.
All counties in California. So you would be able to move
That's
to any
huge.
county you want.
Because there are a few other good counties in California.
Of course, there are many other good counties, and so that's one issue, that it's not going to just be limited to a few counties that will accept it. All counties will have to accept that.
Right, they have to be 55
You still have to be 55 or older, but also this Prop 5 ballot measure would say that it doesn't matter what the value of your property is, so you wouldn't have to worry about equal or lesser value of that 5%.
So anybody 55 or older moving anywhere in California
Would be able to
even if
keep
they're
that property
500K
tax base.
sale and buy a house for $1 million?
That's my understanding as far as the ballot's concerned. And one more feature, under Prop 60 and under Prop 90, under the current law, you can only do it once.
Right,
in your
right,
lifetime.
right.
Under this new Proposition 5, you could do it as many times as you wanted, provided you were over 55.
I think we best all go out and vote on that one.
It's quite an expansion of
Wow.
of those exceptions, but it does help, especially if you have older clients that are on a fixed income and they're used to their property tax and they need to move.
So
They want to
many are leaving the
downsize,
county.
or they want to be with their children in another
Grandchildren,
county,
children.
and this is and they might have been afraid to sell their property because they wouldn't be able to carry their property tax base with them
Right.
to another county. So the idea behind this is to allow them to be able to be mobile, to move closer to their family,
Yep.
or move where there's a lower cost of living, for other reasons,
Right.
and still be able to do that. They're not stuck in their property. So this will free up a lot of homes, and probably put more homes on the market.
It's very interesting because I have probably 4 or 5 clients right now that are moving to different states. One to Nevada near Las Vegas in a retirement community, Summerlin. One to near Washington near their kids. One to Portland, Oregon. Of course, we have a lot of people moving into Monterey County too, but
Right.
I work with a lot of sellers, so they're going out.
That's right. Yeah. So this will make it a lot easier for
That's
people
really
to be able
fabulous.
to move and to adjust as things change over time, which they do. So
There are certainly people age 55 and over that are still moving up
right.
from 500K to $1 million.
That's right. That's
So-
right. So this would allow them to keep that property tax base.
Wow.
But it is important to be aware of these different options that are there. Even if the Prop 5 doesn't pass, there's still ways to be able to keep the property tax base. And
When you go up to,
well, when you're just moving to a different property.
Area.
And it's important to understand these rules and to make sure you don't accidentally unnecessarily trigger a property tax reassessment.
right, which happens sometimes if they're not maybe having that
they're
written in
not-
their trust, or
Well, in this
advanced
case,
possibilities.
with the parent-child exclusion, perhaps, there
Okay.
could be some language to build into the estate plan to be able to preserve that property tax base. But I think, in general, the global idea is just to be aware of all the rules, be aware of all the options, and be fully aware of all the consequences. And
Okay.
and in your case with that Prop 60 example, that was a great example
I
of
want
where
more Prop 60
you were able to
clients.
help
It
those
was
clients.
awesome.
You knew about those rules and you were able to help them, which is really
I want to
important.
do more of that
Yeah.
because what happened, if there's time to explain it a little bit, what happened was I sold their house in Seaside that was about 800 square feet, sold for just around 500K. They bought a house in Marina around 500K, but it was a fixer, and 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath instead of 2-bedroom, 1-bath. But in order to make it work within the 5%, there are some things you can do to make it come out equal or lesser value. And what happened was the sellers had enough cash to pay the agents, normally, my sellers that were buyers, had enough cash to pay the Marina sellers, agent, closing costs, things like that. So by putting that amount of money in, it made it come out within the 5%. So they're paying $300 a month instead of $550 a month.
Perfect.
So I really want to do more of those. They're awesome. So we're out of time again.
Out of time again. Okay.
So this is Kyle Krasa, Trust Attorney.
Right.
And could you give your phone number?
831-920-0205.
0205, my birthday. So, and your website?
Krasalaw.com. KRASALAW.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming and giving
Absolutely.
free advice to buyers and sellers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Scott.